For plebs, by plebs, dropping the Bitcoin-only signal. Pleb Underground. Welcome everyone to the Pleb Underground.
Pleb Underground EP69, Bitcoin numerology like 369, weekly episodes, all are numbered. Self-custody scaling is still encumbered. Bitcoin is voluntary, so why do you force it? Custodial solutions, I can't endorse it. Twitter drama about who you slayed. Some do one thing but tell you don't trade. Be patient while they wait us. With commercialism, they can't bait us. We value proof of work, not traditional status. We don't subscribe. Love unconditional, so they hate us. Never use AI, not GPT. Each muse of my, I'm the rock, G. PT endeavor, never bruise, I'm the doc. GP, T forever high, never lose, no sleepy P. I've been legless, but never Pistorius. Might be getting BIG, but not yet notorious. If Bitcoin is church, where is the steeple? Fiat leaves you in the lurch, it's not for the people. No more THC, but I can still sleep. Get stuck in traffic, but I don't beep. Scroll the TL, see man that still creep. Got TLC at home, that's one to keep. With my I guard, the light avant-garde, I write. Longest yard, I fight, strongest bard. Welcome back with the Brit again. All fresh rhymes, never spit again. It's been weeks since a hit again. Now my life always lit. Amen. Not gonna get son with La Vida Min D. Unlike Bitcoin, no fun. Can't live life sin-free. Transact how you choose. Ye's new wife's no NFT. There's 1,000 yous, there's only one of me. All the time, but I don't care for watches. All the colors, I wear like 4 swatches. Ungovernable misfits, some the lost ones. Can't die on Lauryn Hill, cold like the frost puns. Are you really spam if you're paying the fee? Horror stories like Jason versus Freddy. I'm here for the hodl, give me the BorderWallets. We're here with MTC to talk about the BorderWallets.
That's right, Walton's back. Absolutely awesome. And joining us today, fellow Bitcoiner, pleb, memer who belongs to the meme factory, which does not exist. That's right. We've got MBTC joining us, and he's going to talk to us about BorderWallets. My dude, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for having me.
And you're here for episode 69, so
yeah,
that matters. That's right.
Pretty cool.
All right, we're going to move it on over to the numbers.
Yeah, the numbers, of course, brought to us by TimeChain Stats and TimeChain Calendar.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 824,510. The Bitcoin fiat exchange, 43,568.80. Total public lightning capacity, 5,046 BTC. Moscow time, 2295. Days to the halvening, 107. And the chain rewrite days, 659. Boom. Those are the numbers. That's what's happening. Oh, you know what? Wait a second. I forgot one number. Fastest fee, 56 sats per VByte.
It's been coming down, right? Like I made a transaction yesterday that I got through at 30 sats per VByte. Like the mempool fees have been falling a little bit. Are the shitcoiners running out of money?
I think they are. But really, let me ask you this, Walton. What do you think about the idea, right, that essentially these shitcoiners are trying to force a change, right? Trying to force some type of a change in Bitcoin by doing this with their spam. What are your thoughts?
My favorite conspiracy theory is that right now is that David Bailey is actually the biggest proponent of CTV, and him sponsoring Taproot Wizards is just about clogging the mempool, such that then although it's not really the Taproot Wizards guys, right? It's more like the, what are they called, the BRC20 minting, but like in general, like, you know, these shitcoiners, it's about clog the mempool, and then people then need to talk about scaling solutions, and so therefore we start talking about CTV again, and of course he's just Shinobi wasn't talking about CTV until he became the technical editor of Bitcoin Magazine, and so it's all just a giant psyop from David to get CTV activated, even though there isn't actually an active pull request to what's the word, merge into Bitcoin.
MBTC, man, what are your thoughts on this? CTV a psyop, Is it a coincidence that it's major, essentially BCH and BSVers that are pushing ordinals? Not to mention the fact that, to Walton's point, right, David Bailey, him and the co-founder, I believe, of Bitcoin Magazine, they have a fund, and one of the projects that they have in their fund is an ordinals wallet. So we all getting psyoped?
Oh man, probably always, right? I guess there are people out there with very deep pockets. It's a shame to me that we're seeing so much money from VCs being thrown at this bullshit, and not very much being thrown at what I would regard as more genuine and worthy projects. So yeah, I mean, trust nobody, listen to everybody. I don't know, man. It's whether it's a psyop or not remains to be seen. But I personally don't like the whole ordinals thing. I'm ambivalent on CTV at the moment. I find the timing of this push again around CTV to be a bit suspect, but I'm happy that it's got us away from drive change. So I'll take that as a plus.
I think this whole idea of the timing's suspect, I don't really agree with that. Like, I mean, we held a conversation about scaling solutions, and to me, CTV seems like one of the best. But I think with some of these further additions, there are only so many people that truly understand some of the technical stuff, and that can speak on it, and so people, there's this idea of you got to verify and not trust in Bitcoin. To what extent can everyone verify the source code of upgrades that we do need for scaling self-custody to many millions of people?
I'm still kind of on the fence about CTV. I kind of go back to, and I know that there were discussions about it before. I know that I had heard about it before. And interestingly enough, we've had Vortex join us on the spaces that we hold in the morning. And essentially, he was also talking about the importance of DLCs, right? Discrete log contracts. And I just, the problem that I have is, and it's got nothing to do with any of this tech, right? Like, because I am not of the opinion that Bitcoin cannot be improved. I am just of the opinion that we essentially socially keep getting, so it seems, railroaded into these specific narratives in order to force a decision. And I don't know. I just don't, I don't like it, like, it just seems, I don't know. It just seems strange. It does seem strange, like I totally agree with you, right? Again, going back, CTV was discussed a while ago. Okay. But the way that it's being framed right now, like, it is not a solution to the ordinals junk. It actually is not. Like, we can go and, like, I've heard these discussions, and you can sit there and enable all kinds of filters in Core, okay, in Bitcoin Core, and all they're going to do is work around them. So
right, we're going to talk more about that in REKT.
Okay.
To me, though, the thing with CTV is that it enables something called channel factories for Lightning. And whilst you could say, like, layer one doesn't really need it, like Lightning, you could say it has some challenges right now, because opening and closing Lightning channels is an on-chain transaction, and that comes with a significant cost at the current time, and if you have forced closes, like you're forced to pay that higher fee at present.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that is kind of the main piece to CTVs, right? Is that you're going to be able to share. You're going to be able to share UTXOs, and not only that, but to your point, right, about the by being able to do that, it costs significantly less to open and close channels. But all right, we're going to switch gears, because we're going to talk about this later on REKT, and we're going to take a look at something right now totally different. It's actually a tweet from who is it, Bergalax or something like that. Hold on, So I thought that this was pretty interesting because this is a contentious debate in the Bitcoin space. And anyways, the reason why it's part of the numbers is because if you extrapolate out, right, like this is a total numbers related theme. So here we go. This is from Alex B. Get this through your head. The ability for a single Russian oligarch to park their money elsewhere than some fucking yacht in the middle of the ocean outweighs the incentives of 1 million plebs to keep Bitcoin neutral and decentralized. I've thought about this as well. Right. I think a lot of us, if we're being honest, have thought about these types of things. And it is right. You can join the Bitcoin network and leave the Bitcoin network anytime you choose. But the truth of the matter is that it is the people who have the resources to use it that are going to use it. And to a certain extent, I can't necessarily disagree with Alex's point, although it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things that like I begrudgingly agree with. Anyways, what are your guys' thoughts on this, right? Like, do the plebs stand a chance against the oligarchs using Bitcoin?
Well, we're going to have to figure that out quite soon because there's a shitload of money coming into it.
We're going to know no matter what, right?
Again, right. This is why we need scaling solutions. Like to me, like it's so that plebs can pull to act like whales on the main chain.
I don't disagree that we need scaling solutions, but I think the sense of urgency that's been driven into this is I guess what I'm suspicious about as well.
Yeah.
If anybody's saying that changes to Bitcoin are urgent, where there's not an absolutely clear-cut need, I find that to be red flaggable.
And to your point, MBTC, I mean, this is something that is known, right? Like a typical salesman tactic is to create a time-sensitive scenario where you have to make a decision, right? Like that is kind of the crux of the matter. So, right. Yeah, again, we go back to this.
Drive the compelling need, identify what the compelling need is, and then provide the solution. And what I think the attempts are at the moment is to really make people fearful and to amp up that need in people's minds so that they act.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, I think our consensus is it's a psyop, and we're going to keep watching what happens. Guys, let us know what you think. Put it in the comments. This wraps up the numbers, and we're going to move it on over to the Fireside Chat. The Fireside Chat is brought to you by BTC Pins. Check them out at btcpins.com. Absolutely awesome pins. Bitcoin-related pins. We like Bitcoin. We like pins. Boom. Here's my collection. Sweet. And you can see the PlebUnderground pin. Ask for it when you place your order. Use the code PlebUnderground for 5% off at btcpins.com. Code PlebUnderground. Welcome back, everyone. You know who we've got on the show. We've got MBTC. And for the Fireside Chat, he is in the hot seat. We're going to ask MBTC all these incredibly terrible questions that are just going to make him feel so uncomfortable. And we're going to start off with asking him about what is BorderWallets. First time I heard about it was when Walton said you were going to come on the show. Talk to us about BorderWallet. What does it do? How does it help us?
The reason why Phil doesn't care about this is because he never leaves his house, let alone the country. But yeah, what's BorderWallets about, dude?
Okay, so let me maybe tell you a short story to introduce it. About 2.5 years ago, one of the plebs on Twitter, who goes by the name of Igor Petrov, he hangs out a lot on Nostr now. He tweeted about having this issue of being able to travel internationally with his seed phrase, but without carrying his seed phrase or a hardware wallet. So I, having had a glass of wine, it was a Friday night, I think, thought, I had kind of thought about something previously, and I figured I'd just mock something up. And I drew him up this idea of creating a grid of all BIP39 seed words printed out, so all 2048 seed words that you use to build your Bitcoin private key. And what he could do was take this grid, apply a pattern that only he knew, which would be easy enough for him to remember, but difficult for a border guard to guess. And he would be able to effectively have a evil maid or evil border guard proof means of carrying his seed phrase with him, where his seed phrase wasn't written down in plain text. And long story short, a year and a half ago, I came across a developer called Super Fat Arrow, who I pitched this idea to, and we created BorderWallets together. And what we have now is a tool that's been integrated into Sparrow Wallet and Bitcoin Tribe as a mobile app. And it gives people who need to travel, maybe, you know, escape from conflict zones, just move around, who maybe have difficulty in their personal circumstances, where writing their seed phrase back up down in plain text might be a security risk for them, and that's very common. You know, there's a hell of a lot of people in quite fragile situations. So our tool provides them with the ability to create seed phrases using the power of the human memory to recall patterns. And this plays into something called the picture superiority effect, where we have a much greater ability to remember patterns and shapes than we do words. I looked into this, having come up with the idea, and found that there'd been some experiments done on it, and this term of the picture superiority effect was coined. And we are able to recall patterns or shapes about 6.5 times more easily than words. So it makes sense, right?
6.15 times more, or 6.5 times more?
Exactly, 6.15 times. That's about, people can recall shapes after more than 72 hours in about 65% of cases. And they can recall words that correspond to those shapes in about 10% of cases over the same time frame. So it's about 6.5 times better. And it makes sense, because our ability to recognize shapes, you know, our mother's faces, parents, you know, food, whatever, toys, would have predated our use of language. So we have a much more primordial capability to remember patterns. So it plays into that feature that we have. A lot of people have got views on brain wallets. Generally speaking, I agree that they're a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think that there's always something to remember with your Bitcoin seed phrases, whether it's where it is or what your passphrase is, you know, particularly in things like you know, multi-sig setups, etc. Actually, we're making it easier to recall certain elements of your backups and taking advantage of the most robust part of human memory in order to help people secure and recover their seed phrases if they need to travel with it. So I've got an example of a grid. We called it an entropy grid. And I've done this experiment quite a few times now, where I've shown kids or users in the audience, you know, these seed phrases, right? It's the first 4 letters, which is all you actually need of a 12 word seed phrase. The final word is calculated using our tool. That's the checksum. But if you want to have a look, you know, if you can remember what those words were that I literally just showed you, then you can recover your seed phrase. But if I showed you this and said that actually all the seed words were down here on the bottom, you know, bottom row, then you're going to be able to recall that much more easily than those words, right? So you basically just apply a shape of your choosing. This is actually half of a grid. So it spans over 2 pages. And you would apply a shape, you know, something meaningful to you, like all the rows are numbered. All the columns have got letters on them from A to P. And you could start with meaningful dates to you, meaningful letters. You could maybe do something funky with, you know, those letters and numbers as well. And then apply the pattern. The pattern basically draws out the seed words for you, which you put into our tool. We encourage people to use air-gapped machines, but you can do this now on Sparrow as well. And the Sparrow wallet implementation, which is awesome, allows you to select a grid on screen and just select the cells. And then those first 11 or 23 cells that you choose and the corresponding seed words will give you then options of which checksum you want, because there's actually a choice of checksums that you can have. And you can choose to either remember the checksum word itself or a checksum number.
So wait, so I'm sorry. So you could either remember the checksum itself or the checksum number or the shape, right?
Oh yeah. So you've got to remember the shape, and you've got to remember the checksum or checksum number.
Okay.
Right. So it's one word and one shape.
I mean, that's only two things.
That's two things.
That's really only two things to remember.
Right.
Right? Like one of the most important things, which contains 12 words, 12
without
24.
really giving it much thought, I created my Noster private key with this thing August before last, and I still remember it. So how many people can say that they can remember their Noster private key, right? So,
yeah, seriously.
And I really wasn't thinking that very strongly about it. So, yeah, you have to make sure that the entropy grid or a means to recover the grid is secured as well. And like I say, you know, this is much more evil made proof than just leaving a seed phrase around. But what I was going to say was that the super developer, Super Fat Arrow, created a way to recover that entropy grid using what looks like a legitimate Bitcoin seed phrase. So you can write that down, use it as a decoy wallet, and then that provides you with a canary if it gets discovered. But what you and only you know is that if you take that seed phrase and put it into the BorderWallets entropy grid generator or into Sparrow Wallet or into Bitcoin Tribe, then that seed phrase will regenerate the grid for you that you then apply your shape onto, select your checksum, boom, your funds are restored.
I just had a couple questions. Bitcoin Tribe, is that a rebranding of Hexa Wallet? I had a peek on their website and the team looks very like...
I don't know whether it's a rebrand of the actual wallet. You might be right, but I know it's the same guys that are behind it.
The same, okay, all right. And my other question is around multi-sig. I'm a multi-sig maxi. I don't really see how you do this for multi-sig.
You can have multiple patterns.
You still need the XPubs though.
That's if you want to. Well,
that's if you want to use a service, though, right? The XPubs, if you want to use like an external service.
So the XPubs they're not that sensitive, right?
No, they're not. I mean, well, it depends. Well, it actually depends on who you ask. Right,
from a privacy perspective, yes. From a security perspective, no. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, I won't ask you how you're doing it at the moment, but you know, if you're storing XPubs digitally, then store them in the same place that you store your entropy grid, or just store them alongside it if you've written them out or printed it out or stamped it into metal. Or printed it with an etching tool, whatever. Then
and why do you think this is better than traveling with your signing devices? Like I actually did an international trip, and this is kind of wild. Last year, took all my signing devices with me on an international flight, and then came back again because of the idea of if I have to run away sometime, I don't want the first time I'm doing that to be the first time I'm doing that. Why do you think it's better to travel with this than with your signing devices? If your signing devices are behind a pin, is the idea that you think signing devices are more likely to be seized? Like why would this not be seized?
Well, you've got 12 words that you can write in anything versus a hardware wallet that, in the case of Passport, Cold Card, Seed Signer, I'm fans of all of them. Border guards are going to get much more clued up about this, right? But you're assuming that the individual that's using it has got one of those devices. We're kind of targeting people who are fleeing maybe pretty desperate parts of the world and might not have that luxury. But I mean, I would rarely want to make the argument that one solution is better over another. I think it's really horses for courses, and everybody's going to be different, right? If your setup works for you, then don't change it. But if you're, I had an example of somebody who just in my feed said, my house got broken into. I live in shared accommodation. The police raid, I think there was somebody living with them who was a bit dodgy. Police raided and they took a box containing my hardware wallet and my backup phrase, and they now have it. So the cops had the ability to basically steal all of his funds, right? So in that situation, you're not even traveling. You're at home one day, you go out, you come back, the place has been turned upside down by the cops or whoever, and your stash is gone. So, it's better in that situation to have a passphrase. But if your signing device and your backup's gone, then good luck restoring it just from a passphrase. So luckily, his funds were actually safe. He managed to get it back and no funds have been taken. But in situations like that, where people live in hurricane zones and flood zones, and people's houses get absolutely wrecked. So I'm not saying that this is right for everybody. I'd like everyone to be aware of it so that they could use it if they feel that they have the kind of profile as a user to benefit from it.
Yeah, this is definitely not a solution for everybody, right? Because not everybody's necessarily going to need it, but I do think that you were able to capture a niche, because that is something I have been concerned about myself. We actually have covered stories where border guards saw hardware wallets, right? They were able to recognize them and they did confiscate them. So, like there is that is something, like if they do recognize it and for whatever reason, right, they can pretty much almost assume that you're carrying more funds than they allow into the country. Like they could seize it. So I do think that there is a use case for this. I myself have traveled with one of my hardware wallets. Yeah, it is something that I think about. So I really do appreciate that, that you guys came together to do this. And let me ask, what are some of the challenges that you ran into along the way while doing this? I always find this interesting. Anybody who develops anything, product or service, I'm always curious, like what obstacles, like ones that were significant to you that you ran into that, you were happy to overcome.
Yeah. Well, personally speaking, the time between conceiving the idea and giving Igor my rough draft and me discovering Super Fat Arrow was maybe 18 months or so, a year, 18 months. And it was only because I saw the seed tool, which Bitcoin Q&A developed. You familiar with it?
Yes. Yeah. Really cool. I love his work. I mean, yeah. He really definitely good dude, puts out excellent material.
Yeah, agreed. He published the tool, said this is available for everybody to use now. And as soon as I saw it, I realized that whoever had done it could help me to develop the BorderWallets entry grid generator. So it was that point of going from having nobody to collaborate with to having someone. That was the biggest hurdle for me, because I wasn't quite sure who to approach, right? Who was going to be able to, first of all, understand this thing, but secondly, maybe think it was a good idea as well, right? But luckily, both Q&A and Super Fat Arrow, who I spoke to over the course of the same weekend, liked the idea. And SBA basically coded up version 1 in about 2 days. So
Very
from a
nice.
technical perspective, choosing things like the pseudo random number generator that was used and making sure that what we developed was delivering reproducible grids and iterating on the features. So having the ability to restore grids from seed phrase, that was SPA's idea. So full credit to him for that. That's a really compelling part for me, and probably my favorite bit of it now, that we have the means to give users something that they can write down that looks and acts exactly like a seed phrase. In fact, anybody who has a Bitcoin seed phrase now has a corresponding entropy grid that is directly matched to that seed phrase. So what we've done with BorderWallets is we've actually increased the security for everyone's stash, because people now don't know whether they're attacking a seed phrase with a passphrase or whether it's an entry grid regeneration phrase or not. So that's a small benefit. But all these things were iterations, and it took us a few months to come up with the final product. But there's a hell of a lot of work that goes into developing this stuff. Q&A was witness to it. We had a three-way group between him, me, and SPA as we were kind of mashing all of this out. And he said, he was witness to the fact that a huge amount of work had gone into it, making sure that we thought about everything, documenting everything. Just there's so much that goes into it for what's a relatively simple tool. When I look at what the likes of Craig Raw are doing with Sparrow and how he's implemented it now, I was really surprised actually that when I approached Craig and said, this is what we've done, would you be interested in putting it into Sparrow wallet? He took a few weeks to get back to me, but basically said, yeah, I'm going to have the first version of it out within the next week. So that's, developing relationships and partnerships with other people can be a big hurdle as well. I got lucky there. We've had some, running a project that is open source and reliant on voluntarism is really challenging, right?
Yes.
There is no money in it, as you guys will know. And so we've been blessed in terms of developing the reach of BorderWallets by having the Human Rights Foundation take a look at it. And they invited me out to Oslo in June last year, where I gave a workshop, and that helped to put BorderWallets on the map some more. And they, a couple of months ago, created a bounty for 2 Bitcoins for mobile app developers, wallet app developers, to integrate BorderWallets into their apps, which remains unclaimed. Tribe has obviously come out since then. There are others that I've spoken to and I'm speaking to who are going for it as well. And I think they'll announce their grantees by the end of this year. But, that's having the ability to, or having a partner like the HRF coming along and saying, we're going to put some real funding behind this. It's a lot of money. And it genuinely acted as a motivator to get more developers interested in integrating the tool. So there's lots of challenges along the way, but if you think that you've got a good idea and you want to try something out, then go for it. It's a great learning experience. SPA has become a really good friend, and there's other stuff that we're collaborating on now as well. So yeah, and other doors as well have opened for me. I'm now advising Plebeian Tech, working with some other guys at Musket, and these are things that I would never have thought would come about as a result of what I've been doing here, but it's been something I've been really grateful for, and the whole experience has been something that I wouldn't change actually. All of the challenges that we've come across and all the work that's gone into it have been well worth it.
final question from me. Do you think some partnerships can be harmful? Personally, I think Gladstein and some of the HRF guys are spooks, and kind of hearing that they get behind your project actually makes me less inclined to use it. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Well, I use the word partnership very loosely. We don't have a formal partnership, but I guess in them saying, we like your technology, would you come and speak at our forum, or deliver a workshop rather, and we'd like to put some money out. There was almost no communication prior to me getting an invite out to Oslo, and there was no communication at all prior to them issuing the grant. So I've seen how these guys work. I think it's fair to be suspicious of anybody. I understand, you know, that a lot of people have got concerns in the same vein that you've described. I am suspicious of everybody as well, Walton. Yeah. Right. There's a hell of a lot at stake here, and I trust nobody as well. Right. It's funny that when I first spoke to SPA, it was me speaking to him. He was on mute. I couldn't see his face, and he didn't say a word. Right. And I pitched my idea to him, just completely blind. So, you know, I'm not exactly, you know, in favor of lack of privacy either myself, right, as you can see. But everybody, I think, has their own views on things, and everybody has to make their own minds up about whether or not they place trust in individuals or institutions, and whether they don't. My experience with the HRF was amazing, personally. They ran an absolutely amazing event, and it was very, very worthwhile from my point of view to be there, and I'm really grateful that they gave me and the project the opportunity to do it. But you know, I'm not going to be able to convince you that it's not, you know, some front organization. I've read Gladstein's book and his articles. I've seen the flack that he's taken. You know, I've had thoughts about things as well myself over the years, in terms of, you know, political leanings one way and not the other, and everybody has different political views about things. But at the end of the day, I came out with you know, I had this idea. I engaged a dev who was awesome, and the project's grown. It's open source, free open source software. Anybody can use it. Anybody can take it and put it into their own projects. When it's had guys like Craig Raw looking at it and going, fuck yeah, I want this in my tool as well, then that seems like an endorsement for me. And I'm taking HRF's view on it as an endorsement as well. So, but you know, it's like I say, it's not for everybody. If your setup already works, don't use it. And if you think that you've got a better tool that is strictly doesn't engage with anybody, doesn't have any endorsements by anybody else, and you completely grassroots your whole effort, and you've got the time and the money and the energy to do that, then good for you. But you're going to find that you need friends along the way, right? So that shouldn't mean that. I
appreciate the candid response there.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And seriously, you know, I do think that that the project that you guys did with BorderWallets is absolutely needed, and it's a great lesson in you know, in persistence. So, and courage, right? Because like that's really what it takes to go and do that. And you can see, because there is an actual need, when you go and you show somebody this, right? Like this is the thing about the difference between a real offering and some bullshit vaporware. People can see the need, you know? Right. So it's one of those things where you see it and you go, oh, that makes sense. You know, so yeah, man, great work. Look, if people want to get more information about BorderWallet, where do they go? We're going to put all these details in the show notes, by the way, for everyone.
Cool. So they go to borderwallets.com, at BorderWallets on Twitter, and the same on Nostr. One thing I wanted to mention was that if anybody's going to the halving party in April, I'm probably going to be running a workshop on BorderWallets then. So I'll talk people through how to set up their own Border Wallet at that event. So come along if you're not doing already, and if you are, then I'm looking forward to meeting some of you.
Sweet. And yeah, we will put a link to the halving party as well in the show notes. Guys, this wraps up the Fireside Chat, and we're going to move it on over to REKT.
Up next, we have REKT, sponsored by Represent. Represent are a Bitcoin-owned clothing and accessories brand based in the West Coast of the United States of America. They make high-quality garments like the one I'm wearing, though you can't buy this limited edition shirt, but you can buy things nearly as cool if you head over to representltd.com and use the code PlebUnderground to get a discount on all of their goodies. Once again, that's representltd.com. Welcome back to REKT. I have a few stories for you this week. The first is a cautionary tale. As the price starts pumping, I think many people start looking, hey, well, what am I going to spend all my riches on? But you know, sometimes if they wait slightly longer, those seeming riches could be worth a hell of a lot more. So back in I'm not sure what year actually, but apparently a few years ago, Chamath, of Below My Line fame, bought a vacation home in Tahoe, which is apparently a very nice area, you know, lakes, mountains, etc. But he paid 2,739 Bitcoin. That's a lot of Bitcoin. I can't even imagine that much Bitcoin, but that was apparently $1.6 million at the time, and apparently that's worth about $115 million now. Ouch. Apparently Gandalf said he then divorced from his wife and had to sell it too. So yeah, hodl your wives and hodl your Bitcoin, it seemingly is the lesson there, gentlemen.
I guess maybe the whole marriage thing with her was a little bit below his line. Who knows? But yeah, I think that is a great lesson. Another side of that argument could also be that he just, guys like him that have as much money as him, like, do they really give a shit about 2,500 Bitcoin? They don't, and he's proven time and time again that he doesn't really, respect money, so to speak. He may know how to use it, and he may be a fantastic accumulator of it. But obviously that Bitcoin was not that important to him. So what are your thoughts, MBTC?
If it was an investment, then he clearly backed the wrong horse in that situation. If you've got, lifestyle decisions that you need to make, you want to buy a house, then why not, right? But this issue is just going to happen forever. You're always going to look back at how much your Bitcoin was worth when you sold it. So the optimum strategy is don't sell it and only spend it when you have to, right? Have a low time preference. Don't be fiat minded. If you're looking for an investment, then the apex predator of money is a very good one. And everything else that is investable is going to come down over time in comparison to that. So we understand it, others don't. I don't think he's crying about it now, given his overall net worth. And I shouldn't imagine that was his entire stack either, right?
No, I don't think so. I think he's had a lot. But the point is that you can have a lot of money, but you can still have more money than sense, right? The next story I have, and I always like these ones, is when someone says something and then a few years later it comes back to haunt them. Jeremy Allaire, the Circle CEO, saying good morning to people last week, and Bitcoin Meme Hub replying with a quotation from Jeremy. that was in 2018, five years before, saying that nobody will be using Bitcoin in 5 to 10 years. Quite clearly, that is not true. It's growing from new to new heights, right? I think adoption is on the up.
Well, I mean, how many obituaries have we got now? And I don't think they include the forward forecasts of when Bitcoin would die, right? So there's a heck of a lot more of those, presumably. It's just
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
I was quickly just going to say, never forget the World Economic Forum forecasted that Bitcoin was going to use how much energy by 2020? Wasn't it going to use more energy than the world already uses by 2020? Talk about fuzzy math. That is some broken shit right there to make any sense.
I think the best Bitcoin meme I ever made was saying Bitcoin is Kenny. From South Park, because Kenny dies, but he always comes back, right? And that's Bitcoin. It dies, but it comes back. The next story, and I feel this, I have weird deja vu about this, right? Like it seems like it's every single week or every single month that Ledger have a new fuck up, and apparently, basically the latest one is that they're just tracking everything, even when you try and remove the tracking. So apparently Ledger know. I mean, I don't. Again, why are you still using Ledger? But Ledger know every time you plug the device in, and what apps and etc. Like what do you do? And it tracks your balances as well. Yeah. Just please use something offline. Please use software that isn't made by the same manufacturer of the signing devices, right? If you want to use a cold card, you can use it with Nunchuck or with Sparrow. You can use Seed Signer and use it, again with one of these things. Like you don't have the stack all from the same manufacturer, and certainly don't use anything by Ledger. It's just one embarrassment after the next.
Well, that's the case for all of Pedro's sponsors.
So, I mean, look, they made a giant orange hat where you could store your signing device. That's all we have to, I mean, really?
Some say that's inspired by Adam Back, who walks around carrying his jade on a necklace, but
So then why wasn't it a necklace?
Have you not seen that? I swear, there's so many pictures of Adam Back wearing a jade around his head. Whatever. I can't imagine that's for his main stack, but traders. I
don't think it would be. I'm pretty sure he's just wearing it like jewelry.
And he hasn't been wearing it when I met him.
I'm sorry. Repeat that, MBTC.
I've met Adam twice now, and he's not been wearing it each time. So maybe he got it nicked.
Guys, if you know, let us know in the comments. Did somebody take Adam Back's hardware wallet and chain?
Yeah, just look. If 1 million Bitcoin moved, then you know that happened, right?
I can't really see Adam being the kind of guy that would do that. I'm surprised to hear that there's photos of him.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised.
I think it's
by
a
that.
marketing plan. He's just trying to shill the jade, right? Like it's.
I met him. He wasn't wearing that. I met him a few times now. He was never wearing that. But still, the point is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even make a difference who it's inspired from, right? He's not wearing a Ledger, okay? He's wearing his own stuff. Like, Ledger can come up with whatever they want to. They have had, one of the worst histories of terrible ideas. And that was preceded by a bunch of hacks. And by a bunch of their information being exposed. So, that company, I put this tweet out. I'm surprised that they have any customers left. I genuinely am.
There's a lot of noobs out there, and there's a lot of money being pushed at sponsors. So,
but
I'm not surprised. It's just horrible to see.
But you know what the thing is, right? Going back to the point about the Jade has an even better user experience than Ledger and doesn't have the same history of dumpster fires, preceding it. And even, the Trezor. And again, these are not endorsements for these other products. It's simply just stating that other people have been able to make noob-friendly products that aren't as crappy and that don't have as much exposure that Ledger has, and hasn't had the history of bad ideas.
So I think Blockstream did have a customer data leak a few months back.
Oh,
I've been trying without any success to
find that.
get a statement from them on their customer data retention policy now. But yeah, they haven't let me know despite multiple attempts to get that info.
Yeah, I just found it right here. October 28th, 2023.
Yeah. So be careful who you give your data to. Use a PO box if you can. There's services here in the UK. I'm guessing there's ones elsewhere, right?
Yeah, we're gonna put that in the we're gonna put that in the show notes.
A relative or a friend.
Hey man, thanks for pointing that out.
So guys, I have one more story, or a collection of stories, and we're gonna look at kind of what's going on in the world of ordinals. So yeah, REKT, right? So let's look first. Who's funding all the bullshit? Well, one guy is one girl is this weird looking specimen here, who likes to hang out in the woods. Apparently he used to do 3D printed guns, and now he's 2D printing JPEGs, right? Or something like that. Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. Yeah, an app for shitcoins. Excellent. Yeah, and then the other I think Greg shared this, right? There were the other people funding it. It was like David Bailey and Vitalik and Joe Lubin and like a couple of Chinese guys. And it's a bunch of shitcoiners and people who either hate Bitcoin or like Bitcoin and want to steal your Bitcoin, as per usual. But one cool thing that happened is that I think it was the ordinals.com website were quote unquote DDoS attacked. They were spammed. The ordinal spammers got spammed. But as a Bitcoiner points out here, and I really like this, that it's not a DDoS. Those are valid TCP IP packets. I think a beautiful phrasing. But like, there's been a lot of talk about censorship, right? Or not censorship, but how do we filter? How do we get rid of the spam? And a few people like Eon and others have pointed out that actually JPEGs firstly aren't really the problem. It's more like BRC20, and that's just JSON data, and there's not really a good way to stop this.
Nope.
And Andrew Polstra, who's Blockstream's director of research, agrees with this as well. This post shared by Gandalf, because Polstra, like most productive people, most productive devs especially, just isn't on Twitter. And finally, well, what happens if we do start censoring everything? Maybe we end up with just end up with Ethereum, right? Like, I don't think censorship is the solution to getting rid of transactions that you don't like, right? That's why I keep bringing this back, and I said this in the scaling debate 2 weeks ago, that we need to be trying to go around. We need to incentivize what I believe are better transactions, true monetary transactions, ones that aren't to do with shitcoinery, and that happens via scaling solutions, not via trying to filter or censor transactions that you don't like, because it's not necessarily clear what type of transactions there are, right? Like coin joins, for example, would get some of them would get kind of caught in some of this filtering, as Ocean have been doing. That's not a good thing, and we don't want censorship. We don't want what Ethereum are doing, which apparently now have 49% of blocks being complying with OFAC sanctions. Gentlemen, it's a bit of a mess, but yeah, do you agree?
Well, with which bit?
Whichever bit you want. You get to pick the part of REKT that you hit up.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a gigabrain who can solve this or professes to having the solutions in the slightest. But I see Bitcoin as a monetary network, and I see being able to apply transaction fees that are higher than the value of a transaction as a bug, or I would have done until I realized that there are legitimate reasons for doing that from a spending point of view sometimes. So the law of unintended consequences applies. And for somebody like me, who isn't in a position to throw any weight or intelligence behind solving it, I can only just kind of observe. And what I see playing out is when you have this law of unintended consequences happening, and it always does, right? There's always things that you don't envisage, like with Taproot, etc. Which I think this is part SegWit. In fact, I think what we're experiencing today are to some extent consequences that weren't necessarily envisaged back then. Then we have to be really mindful of that going forward. And it pisses me off when I see people who are demanding urgent resolution to these issues, when urgency isn't the big thing to overcome. It's really establishing whether we actually have a problem, to what extent that problem will persist, to what extent that problem could be exacerbated by interests that do not have our interests at heart, right? And that's, I think, particularly relevant given that we've got boatloads of institutional money coming down the pipe. And we're entering a very different world, I think, once ETFs get approved, that is not going to look like the past, right? Yes. Things are going to look very different in a year or two. And so we have to be mindful of how these issues potentially get worse in the wrong hands as well, and look to solving them in the best way possible, with all of that considered. And nobody has the answers. I certainly don't. But we just need to be alert, right? People have been putting out, if these 10 people agree to changes, then that's good enough for me. I can understand that sentiment. I think it got memed maybe by people who weren't really thinking through the consequences of that. There's people I trust in the space, people who support CTV, people who like Bitcoin Mechanic. You know, he is a good guy from my perspective. I like him, and I think he's earnest with what he's trying to do. I think he has Bitcoin's best interests at heart. I think there's people who, you know, look at this in lots of different ways, and I don't know what the right solution is. I just don't know what it is. But you, as an individual, you shouldn't be blindly trusting anybody. I wouldn't be blindly trusting the people that I have the most respect for, because I've seen people be wrong about things, and people that I wouldn't necessarily agree with or have trust in be right about things, or things that I do agree with. So remain open-minded and remain cautious.
I think that's,
I like that last point.
Oh, go ahead.
Go on, Phil. I was just going to say, like, I like the last point of, like, you can't understand everything technical, and so try and have lots of people that you do respect, that do disagree with each other on these things, because then you can try and get a more balanced opinion if you are outsourcing some of that thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's incumbent on us as Bitcoiners, because we have put so much trust ourselves in this trustless system. We've got so much faith in it, and we've staked so much on it. We owe it to ourselves to be as educated as we possibly can be. But that can be hard with all the different issues that float around. And when you're, looking after a family or mining in the fiat realm, you can't always get a handle on things. But my view is you want to try and be as smart as you can about it, and get as informed and aware as you possibly can be, so that you can contribute and be prepared to make mistakes. The culture within Bitcoin, I think, welcomes debate, or at least in some parts it does. And as an individual, you should welcome the opportunity to be proven wrong about something, to have an opinion about something, to be proven wrong and to learn from it and to get better so that you can be more informed with the next thing and just continue to grow. It really is incumbent on us, I think, to be educated and not trust, because it's the lack of education, I think, that breeds an environment where you outsource your thinking to others, and that's where the danger is.
I think that's very well said, and I think that part of that is the human condition of laziness, right? Like, this is one of the reasons I think that we that we so quickly grasp and applaud, third party institutions and stuff like that, right? We get to offload the risk, which is obviously not without its chains, right? So it's like, right, well, we'll let you offload some risk, but you just got to give up a little bit of that freedom, a little bit, every time. I just want to go back, make 3 points about this before we wrap up REKT. So first thing, Ragnar. For the people who don't know, right? If you're a noob, so he was a Bitcoiner, right? Just like it showed in Walton's tweets, right? You could see Mr. Hodl, no more 3D printing, no more Bitcoin. So look, he was one of those Bitcoiners that if you weren't spending all the Bitcoin that you were purchasing, if you weren't constantly spending it where he deemed you should be spending it, then you weren't the right type of Bitcoiner. Okay. That was his take. And I remember getting blocked by him 3 years ago. So it doesn't surprise me that he's now an ordinals grifter in any way, shape, or form. He was butthurt even as a Bitcoiner. He was already butthurt. So I think it's par for the course. The other piece I wanted to say had to do with the essentially the difference between the ordinals, quote unquote, spam and financial transactions, right? We now, I think this messaging is the clearest messaging we could say. Our only tool, okay, or I guess you would say our only game move is to crowd out the lower quality, quote unquote, financial transactions, because indeed these JPEG transactions, they are somewhat financial depending on how you look at them. Okay. And we just need to have higher quality financial transactions to crowd out this crap. And I do believe that over time this will happen. I think that what people don't understand is that right now we are at a time in this space where, like, we've been in here for a long time. We're in an echo chamber. So, like, I think that we believe this space is more mature than it is. The fact that these people and these organizations that are pushing this type of, this type of spam, the fact that they exist and have any type of foothold, regardless of what it is, just shows the immaturity of the space and how young it really is. Like that's all it is. Like, that's why they desperately need a change sooner than later. This is where we go back to the time-sensitive data, right? You have to make a decision. It's time-sensitive. Of course it is, because when Bitcoin grows, these people will no longer be able to push these agendas. And on my last point, for the people, that list of the 10 people I trust in the space, I've known Bitcoin Sapiens for a really long time. And he's got some good takes, but also some of that take. And again, this is not a reflection on him. I think that's a reflection more on the people in just the people in the space, right? Like, there's lots of people that I appreciate their opinion and I value their opinion, but I also understand that they are humans. And I know this sounds crazy, but the reason why I know this is because I'm a human. Crazy. So I know that they're not going to be better than their incentives, right? Like, so sure, you may pick some, you may pick some really solid Bitcoiners, but to sit there and simply do this and say yes to everything they say, and I find that cringe, that's totally cringe. And then I saw people, right? I saw some really big accounts try to make excuses for that tweet, right? Oh, well, this is really what he meant. No, he said what he meant. That's what he meant. He said it. So it's like, you don't need to make excuses for this guy. You don't need to stand up for him. That's his choice. His choice is to trust those people. That's totally his choice. But I mean, there's some counter narrative to that, right? Like, and I just, anyways, I thought that was cringe.
Unless I'm mistaken, Sapiens is like a porn director or producer or something like this. Like there are a bunch of people that have been in Bitcoin for a very long time that aren't necessarily experts on economics or technology, and that I don't know, have various kind of jaded feelings, and just because they've been around for a long time and they've got a lot of Bitcoin and they've got a big following doesn't mean they necessarily know or understand a lot about Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah. Well, look, anyways, don't build a trust network like that, and don't be afraid to metaphorically slay your heroes. Guys, let us know what you think. Put it in the comments. We're wrapping up REKT, and we're going to move it on over to the Hopium.
The Hopium.
The Hopium is brought to you by CypherSafe. Check them out at CypherSafe.io. They make seed plates. That's right. Check it out. Here's the Cypher grid. Comes with this awesome little punch tool. You need to keep your seed safe at CypherSafe.io and check out the Cypher grid. Also from CypherSafe.io, check out the Bitcoin Rollo Triangle. That's right, guys. 16 ounces of solid titanium, a beautiful art piece by CypherSafe.io. Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive into the Hopium, I just want to point out that I have been saying MTC's name wrong the entire show, and Walton has corrected me. So I appreciate it. And I will do my best not to call you MBTC, but to call you MTC. But I don't know. I feel like MBTC is just, I don't know.
It sounds like micro BTC, and I think micro is an adjective normally associated with a different member of that group that doesn't exist. I believe Chairforce is the micro of the group.
Yeah. Well, I used to go by MicroChat as well, so maybe there's a link there.
Well, I apologize, and we're gonna, in my typical Canadian fashion, I had my sorry loop go on there, and there you go. So MTC, I will call you by your correct name. Anyways, all right, let's dive into the Hopium, because guys, I know everybody, the one question that is on everyone's mind right now: where do I get more information about the Bitcoin ETF? And here we are, guys. We've got so much more information about the thing that you are not hearing enough about. Let's dive into it. Okay, so for the Hopium, right? As if you're not excited enough, here we go. Tweet out of Bitcoin Magazine. BlackRock is seeding their spot Bitcoin ETF with $10 million. Now, we're going to talk about this in a second. Bitwise is seeding theirs with $200 million. Hashdex is seeding theirs with $2.8 million. WisdomTree is seeding theirs with $2.5 million. The funds are starting to flow. That's right, guys. This is just making you feel the warm and fuzzies, right? You're just super excited that all of this legacy banking has finally decided they're okay with Bitcoin, because they figured out a way that they can capitalize on it. They're okay with it now. Anyways, I do want to point out that we did have somebody come on the Good Morning Bitcoin space today, and he works in ETFs. And essentially, one of my questions that I had, which to this day I have not been able to get an answer out of it. Maybe Walton knows this answer. Maybe MTC knows this. But BlackRock is under the obligation to purchase Bitcoin, supposedly, right? When these approved participants give them cash so that they can create shares, supposedly that cash is converted into Bitcoin. Now, my question is there any rule as to the minimum requirement of how much they must hold in relation to how many shares they issue? And there's no clear answer on that. So what I'm talking about, obviously, fractional reserve banking, right? Because that is, to me, what I see happening. I understand that there's spot BTC. I understand that BlackRock has to buy the BTC, supposedly, right? But I also understand there's a whole lot of trust going on, and it doesn't seem like they need to keep any type of specific ratio between the number of shares that are issued and the amount of Bitcoin that they hold. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you guys think? Valid concern?
Wouldn't the automatic classification of issuing more than you have be regarded as fraud?
I mean, is it though? Because it's just diluting the Bitcoin per share.
Just sounds like normal TradFi to me.
Yeah, does it? This is what I'm saying. And I don't disagree with you, MTC, but I'm just saying, like, isn't this what TradFi is anyway? Isn't that what fractional reserve banking is? Anyways, guys, let us know what you think. Put it in the comments. Okay, more Hopium on the ETF. That's right. We're not done. We're not done at all. All right, so we got this tweet out of Marty Party. Here we go. Breaking. A pattern is emerging. Other funds registered as securities already trading on the NASDAQ are amending their prospectuses that they can now expose, okay, and this is where the Hopium comes in, 15 to 50% of their assets under management to Bitcoin through the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Saylor called it. Here we see advisors, preferred trust filer, CIK 000155, whatever, can now hold 15% assets under management in spot Bitcoin through Grayscale. Look at the bottom here. He predicted 1 quadrillion of spot Bitcoin and crypto derivatives stacked up by 2030. This is proof it's about to begin. Go, Walton.
I mean, the guy can't even spell the word predicted, so I just don't care. I just like, it's all fucking bullshit. It's all paper Bitcoin. Not your keys, not your coins. TradFi, go fuck yourselves.
So no warm and fuzzy? No warm and fuzzy. Okay. What about you, MTC, before we move on to the next piece? See, this is why it's Hopium.
There's going to be. I think the scams are really have only just begun. I think we're going to, as I said recently, we're entering an era of I like Bitcoin, buy my shitcoin like we've never seen before. That's my prediction. So yeah.
Very well said, and excellent point, and I do agree. Okay, here we go. A little, I know, you guys are like, Phil, give me more of this ETF stuff. You got it. All right, so here's a tweet from Dylan Leclerc. Only 39% of financial advisors believe a spot Bitcoin ETF will be approved in 2024. 88% of said advisors interested in purchasing BTC are waiting until after a spot ETF is approved. So here we go. This is the Hopium of what it could be, if I can imagine. Only 19% said they are able to currently buy in client accounts, not priced in. Boom. I don't even know what that means, right? All of this, but I could say this. Number go up. That's it. There you go. All of this is not priced in, guys. We are not bullish enough. What are your thoughts before we move to the final segment of Hopium, the final story?
I think the ETFs will get approved on the same day that the Epstein client list comes out. Yeah.
Didn't it already come out?
Or they're saying they're going to release it or something. I don't know.
I've already seen some lists though. Are those? I'm guessing those are all fake.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought people were just insiders were talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, look, the Hopium around the ETF is just never ending and absolutely tiring. Guys, I apologize, but we got to keep up with it because it's what's happening now. And for whatever reason, people want to know. And there is a very new, right, that there's a whole bunch of new Bitcoiners that don't know much more than just the ETF hype. So, but guys,
ETFs
this is not
do already
Bitcoin.
exist though in other countries, right?
Yeah,
They exist in Canada.
for
I think
years.
there's one in the Netherlands, and no one's buying them. I don't know. I think people are buying MicroStrategy instead, right?
Yeah. I would say so, especially in the US, right? And GBTC has had a pretty decent run, right? Barry Silbert's managed to hold that sinking ship together. So, anyways, but he's gone now.
ETF ads, right? And this is pre-approval. After they've been approved, there's going to be a lot of marketing spent being thrown.
Oh yeah. Hey, look, we've said this before, right? When Legacy steps in, right? They are the house. So they're going to make sure that they can profit. Wall Street fleeces retail. That's how it works. So.
And that's why all of these are going to be redeemable for dollar value, not the actual Bitcoin. So once again, not your keys, not your coins. It's just this is a way for TradFi to try and do to Bitcoin what they did to gold.
It's all hype, guys. None of this is Bitcoin. Walton hit the nail on the head. All right. Final Hopium story. Here we go. This is a kind of an account that I haven't seen in the past, kind of a newer account, but anyways.
He's been coming over the last couple months. I think
right?
I think it's some CFA that started getting into Bitcoin has been kind of hyped on it.
Yeah. And he's putting out some really good stuff. I do enjoy, right? I do enjoy seeing people come over from legacy banking, legacy finance, right? Accounting, all of that stuff. I enjoy seeing these people come over, and I've always been fascinated with their view on Bitcoin because, of course, they give that particular perspective that they're familiar with, so it gives that brand. So anyways, let's dive into it. This is some good Hopium, some personal good Hopium. Saving in Bitcoin, right? Not investing, saving in Bitcoin can help you retire 25 years earlier than if you only invested in index funds.
What a fucking bear. 25 years earlier? More like all the years earlier. Like, where did you get the number from? But let's have a look.
Yeah, let's have a look here. I'm not going to go through the whole thread. I am going to share it for everybody to go through it. But so here we go. To be conservative, let's assume that we will get diminished returns. Let's assume 35% returns over the next 10 years and 20% after that, with inflation accounted for. You would buy $200 of BTC per month for the first 10 years with a 35% growth rate. You would have $215K at the end of 10 years. You would then invest $200 a month for the next 12 years, plus the balance from the first 10 years at 20% growth rate. You would have $1,099,511 of purchasing power at the end of year 18. Okay, so this is actually pretty crazy, and I just want to finish it off with this. If you have a portfolio with 90% BTC and the rest in index funds, you would be a millionaire in 19 years. Now, the one piece I want to point out is the diminished purchasing power. So the key really is the fact that Bitcoin retains its purchasing power over time. But not only that, but its retention actually far exceeds the speed at which the devaluation is occurring, or at least that's what I see. So yeah, I think that's an excellent thread, and I think it helps put things into perspective for, to be honest, people that are more geared towards TradFi, right? TradFi and legacy finance. This is more of a language that these people understand. What are you guys' thoughts?
There was some report, I'm trying to think who did it now. Was it BlackRock or Fidelity that said like you should have like
BlackRock?
It was quite, I think it was like 80-something plus percent Bitcoin in the portfolio. But it was like, even if you just do like, the whole point is, with any of these things, if you start with a small percentage of your portfolio, just the word grosses me out now, but like if you start with a small percentage of your portfolio being Bitcoin, the dollar denominated value of that will and the percentage will increase over a long period of time, because Bitcoin will probably outpace the returns of almost everything else in the portfolio. So and then you go, oh yeah, maybe I should just have even more Bitcoin or just all Bitcoin. And I think many people have done that.
Yeah, I tend to agree. MTC, what are your thoughts on this?
The past is no indication of the future, but if I wouldn't be looking at a $200 a month DCA at this point. If you're entering the Bitcoin space now, then get as much as you can, as quickly as you can. Don't do a small dip buy, because you'll just look back in 10 years and go, why didn't I go more in? So yeah, DCA is for the risk averse and those who don't want to have to time the market, and I can see the benefits. But if you're just talking about like small proportions of what your liquid capital availability is in, then yeah, great, but you're going to regret it if you don't put more in.
Yeah, I can back that up and say that from my first cycle, I absolutely regretted not stacking harder. 100%. Okay, I thought I stacked hard. This is the problem, right? I thought I stacked hard, And then we went into a bull run. And that's where the tide, right? The tide pulled out and I'm standing there naked.
Right.
I'm like, damn it, I didn't have enough.
I've always been a smash buyer. I think this
me too.
DCA stuff gets pushed by certain firms, and Swan. Actually, it's mainly Swan. Right, like Swan are some of the biggest pushers of DCA. And I think it's for two reasons. One is because it's they know they've got this kind of income and this kind of trading fees coming in on a regular basis. It's like it's a subscription service, right? If you're selling DCA, you're selling a subscription service. You're selling a product where you can collect ongoing fees, and maybe actually it's something that your hedge fund can trade against.
Predictable revenue model. Right?
On predictable days.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not quite as cynical as that, but I think it's a good way of getting noobs in, because a lot of people will have so many. This isn't just another investment. This is a whole different beast that's unlike anything normies have ever seen, or in fact we've ever seen, right? Prior to becoming Bitcoiners. So it's unknown territory, and I think if you can get somebody to take a nibble, then that's a good thing. But the tide is going out, to use your analogy, Phil, in more ways than one. We're at $34 trillion worth of US debt right now, $300 trillion worth of global debt, and that is only going to get worse on a more rapid inclining scale. So time is of the essence. So use it to encourage noobs in, but try and get them educated and to see the big picture as well.
I kind of agree with you that like for new people, if they just do one buy, many of them can't stomach the volatility, and so I always encourage new people to just buy regularly. But that's not. Again, this is where terminology gets fucked up. Like the DCA is meant to be, if you've got let's say you've got $10,000, DCA is basically saying, oh, we'll just buy $100 a day for 100 days, whereas versus doing a lump sum of, say, like, investing it or saving it in one chunk or a few chunks. Whereas to me, Bitcoin is a savings tool. And for most people, they don't have that big chunk of money at the beginning, and that's actually one reason why they say they can't afford Bitcoin, is because maybe they think they need to buy like a chunk in. I say no, you can just buy a little bit regularly, try and save little bits as you can, and then actually you end up that achieves the intended outcome of this DCA trading strategy, but to me isn't DCA. It's just saving, but each to their own. Yeah,
I'm just going to shout out quickly to the UK plebs group that I'm part of. One of the guys in there said the other day that he'd heard from his sister, who was lamenting about the fact that she'd stopped DCAing in the bear, and now that Bitcoin was pumping, she was regretting. And obviously, that was the best time to stack and continue the DCA. People just need to learn the hard way, right? And maybe if there'd been a bit more attention given, she could have figured things out for herself, realized what she was given as an opportunity there. But everybody figures it out in the end. Everybody goes through some pain. Not one of us, I think, has come through this journey without making mistakes and without having some regrets, right? So
yeah, definitely.
So have fun, but don't stay poor. Right. Thanks, MTC.
That's right. That is absolutely right. And guys, this wraps up the Hopium segment. So that's our show. Don't forget, like and subscribe. This is all we ask for, right? We love making this content. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to check out BorderWallet. We are going to put contact details in the show notes for MTC. MTC, thank you so much for joining us. How can the plebs get in touch with you if they want to bug you?
Yeah, so I'm primal.net/MTC on Nostr and at MTCBTC on Twitter.
Very cool. Very cool. All right,
Thanks for
guys.
having me, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining
Thanks
us.
for
We're
joining us.
definitely going to bug you to join us again on the show. Guys, don't forget to check us out on our audio only platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. If you want to stream us sats, check us out on fountain.fm. You could stream us sats through Breeze, but you could stream us sats any way you can stream us sats. Walton, how do we end this?
I kind of like the jingle they used to. I was waiting for it. It's like Phil normally goes, "You can stream us sats through Breeze." I don't know. It's like the last ad that we don't get paid for. But like, I was
No, we
"That's
sure don't
good.
get paid for that."
Where to go, Phil? Where to go? But
Today I
answer that
screwed
Phil-
it up.
But yes, guys, please like and subscribe and head over to fuckshitcoins.com, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
Peace.
More toxic than the most toxic.